goodness, for your blessings over us, Father. Right now, in the name of Jesus, I ask, Father, that you open my lips, and my mouth may declare your praise. For the meditation of my heart, the words of my mouth, to be pleasing to you, Father. Father, right now, in the name of Jesus, I thank you for your love for us, for your care for us, and for your word that you've given to us. I pray right now that your word is alive and sharper than any double-edged sword. Speak to our spirits, Father, our souls, and quicken our bodies. In the name of Jesus, I take authority now against any unclean spirit, any contrary spirit that would disrupt or take the attention away from the Word of God. I bind it in the mighty name of Jesus. And Father, let our minds be free to hear your word, to believe and to be renewed. It's in the name of Jesus. And everybody says? Amen. Amen. You guys can greet the person that's next to you. Tell them it's good that they're here. And then you may be seated. Even though we're seated with reverence, let's open our Bibles to the book of 1 Samuel. The book of 1 Samuel, chapter 17. Yes, 1 Samuel 17. Samuel comes right after Judges, I believe. No, Ruth. Judges, Ruth, then Samuel. 1 Samuel chapter 17. Everyone find it?
Amen.
Amen. Okay, now that you found it, you can put your finger in there and just hold it open. We'll be going through the chapter as we go along. I want to share with you guys tonight a little bit about David. David and Goliath. Say with me, David and Goliath.
David and Goliath.
It's a very well-known story. It's something that, as a child, is one of the first things you learn about the Bible. First is creation, then Noah and the flood, and then David and Goliath. Sometimes Abraham makes it there somewhere. But it's a very well-known story. It's such an epic story that it became euphemism?
A euphemism?
Yes. For the plight of the underdog versus the big guy. When there's always, especially in the sports world, when there's a team that has no chance of beating another team, they say a David and Goliath. When you're facing problems in your life, they're so large, people tend to call those things Goliaths. And it's actually something very funny because it came into our language to mean something huge, a Goliath. They said that's a Goliath. It's a huge thing. And it is, but there's a lot of spiritual and physical gold nuggets that God has put in this story that as a child we read and we gloss over it. And here, I just want to share with you guys a little bit what the Holy Spirit's been sharing with me. And I know this has impacted my life and impacted your life. So without any further ado, any disclaimers anymore, let's go to chapter 17. Verse 1, 17, verse 1, it says, Now the Philistines gathered their armies for battle, and they were gathered at Soko, which belongs to Judah, and they camped between Soko and Azekah in the Ephes Damim. Saul and the men of Israel were gathered and camped in the valley of Elah, and drew up in battle array to encounter the Philistines. The Philistines stood on the mountain on one side, while Israel stood on the mountain on the other side, with the valley between them. Now, real quickly here so you guys understand what's happening. Israel had just come out of Egypt. They, through the tutelage of Joshua and the guidance of Joshua, they conquered the majority of the promised land. They're in the promised land. Joshua's about to die. And he tells the people, choose today whom you're going to serve. He says, as for me and my house, we'll serve the Lord. And Joshua dies. The people had leaders, which is the book of Judges. You guys can read it later. And the people would stray away from God. Their enemies would come and subjugate them in warfare. They would cry out to God. God would raise a judge who would come and deliver them. And they would have peace for a few years. And that judge would die. The people would rebel again against God. And their enemies would rise up, conquer them. And it's this vicious cycle. Up and down, up and down, up and down. And in the midst of that, you have the story of Ruth that happens. And right at the end of that, there's this woman whom she can't have children. And one day she comes to the temple, not to the temple, to the tabernacle with her husband to worship. And she's crying. And she asks God for a child. And God gives her a son, Samuel. And he was the last judge of Israel. And when Samuel was at an older age already, the people of Israel, they start asking God for a king. And God tells Samuel to anoint Saul as king. So God anointed Saul. And one of the first things that Saul did after he got anointed as king, he gathered those tribes. Because they were just tribes. They were not unified as a country until Saul became king. He unified all the tribes underneath one banner, underneath the country of Israel. They were individual tribes with their territories. Sometimes they would gather together to fight an enemy. Sometimes they would fight among themselves. But they're just a bunch of tribes, not nomadic tribes anymore, but they're tribes living close to each other. And there's this group of people that arrive in the Middle East through the Mediterranean. We don't know where they came from, called the Philistines. And the funny thing is that for a long, long time, there was the laughing stock among the archaeological world. They would say that the Bible was not true, because the Bible, especially the book of Kings, spoke so much of this people group called the Philistines, literally the arch enemies of Israel, and nobody ever found anything about these people. And they're saying because of that, the Bible was a hoax. The story of King David was a hoax. Nothing really happened because this, enigmatic people that is their arch enemies that the Bible speaks so much, there's nothing of it. It was just a few weeks ago, and then later in the 60s they found stuff from the Philistines. Now they just found a graveyard, a cemetery, a Philistine cemetery, right outside of Tel Aviv. And they're digging and they're finding more and more stuff, and the archaeologists are all baffled. And there's this one, this one Israeli archaeologist, Gabriel, I forgot his last name. And they come and they interview him, and he's one of the top guys of the archaeology world in Israel. And he says, what do you think of this? Are you surprised? He goes, no, I'm not surprised. Why? Because the Bible said it was there all along, but I don't know why you guys didn't believe. But there's the proof now. So the Philistines did literally exist. They were a physical people. They lived in a physical land. They had a physical city. It's not an allegorical enemy to kind of teach us something. No, there's nothing allegorical about this. It's history. And when Saul came into the kingdom, the first thing he did was he gathered those tribes and he went and he fought the Philistines. And he won a battle against them. And that solidified him as the king. And long time, a few years passed, Saul disobeyed God. God rejected him as king, and God told Samuel to go to Bethlehem and anoint this young man, David, as king. And David was anointed as king. But David still kept serving his father as the shepherd for his father's flock. And whenever he had time, he would run to Saul's palace to play the harp for him, so the evil spirit that's tormenting Saul would give him relief. Whenever David played the harp, the evil spirit that was tormenting Saul would leave. So David was doing this double duty. He was helping the king, and he was helping his father back and forth for a while, even though God had already anointed him as king. So here's a little story for us. Just because we know what the calling of God is in our lives, it's because we know the plans that God has for us. There's no job that's above or below us.
Amen. Amen.
Here was a young man who was anointed the king of Israel. And here he is serving the men whom God rejected as king and anointed him in his place. But you know what? If you know who you are, you know who God tells you are, if you're sure of your identity, you don't need to impose it on other people so you can receive what is yours. And David did that for many years. And here he is in this limbo, going back and forth, serving Saul, and then running back home to take care of his father's sheep, and then running back and helping Saul. And in this midterm, while he was at his father's house taking care of the sheep, the Philistines decided to attack Israel one more time. And geographically, so you guys can understand, picture Israel today. You know, that little strip of land between Lebanon and the Sinai Peninsula, that little strip of land. The Philistines lived in the coast, where the Mediterranean is. What's nowadays Tel Aviv, that area there. And then there's this mountain range that you go up, and then there's valleys and more mountain ranges. The Israelites lived in the hills. You see, when Joshua came, and when they came into the land, they didn't conquer all the way to the coast. They settled in the hills. That's why there's a verse in the Bible that God says, He's the God of the valleys and the hills. You see, they didn't take possession of all that God had given them. So the Philistines took possession of the coast. And they started marching in towards the hills. They wanted to drive Israel out. Why? Because where they came in, they would have literally split the kingdom in half. They would have had territory between the kingdom. So therefore weakening the kingdom and then making it easier for them to conquer them later on. So the Philistines come and they camp in this mountain range right here. And then Saul hears it that they're coming. So he gathers the army and he runs to meet them. And they meet. When they come together, the Philistines are on this hill. The Israelites are on this hill. Behind the Philistines is modern-day Tel Aviv. Behind the Israelites is modern-day Jerusalem. And there's a valley in between. And they're stuck there. Why? Because of the valley in between. Nobody is attacking nobody. Because for the Philistines to attack the Israelites on the other hill, guess what? They got to go through the valley. And when they go through the valley, they're susceptible to be attacked by the archers and the people who shoot projectiles from the top. They're sitting ducks. Whoever goes to the valley is a sitting duck. So that's why they're there for this 40 days, I believe. They're in the standstill. The Philistine army on one hill, the Israelite army on the other, and the valley between them. And they don't engage in warfare. And that's what the Bible says here. The Philistines were on one side, the Israelites were on the other, and there was the valley between them. Now, verse 4. Then a champion, say with me, a champion, came out from the armies of the Philistines, named Goliath from Gath, whose height was 6 cubits and a span. Now, the Philistines, they had 5 major cities. Back then, the idea of a kingdom, it was city-states. Israel was something new, that you had all these tribes united underneath one king. It was city-states, like the Greeks. You had the city of Sparta, which was a kingdom. You had the city of Athens, which was another kingdom. There were city-states. They collaborated with each other to fight a bigger enemy, an outsider, but they were city-states. And the Philistines were no different. They had 5 cities and 5 kings. And one of the largest ones was Gath. And no other joke, they just discovered the gates of Gath. They were digging there, and they found it. And it's massive. For the time for that time period, it's almost double the size of the gates of other normal cities around that time period. So they come to the conclusion that it was a massive, massive metropolitan hub of the Philistines. And that's what the Bible says, that Gath was pretty much the center, the hub for all the Philistine action. And there was this man there from Gath named Goliath. And the Bible says that he comes out into the valley, and he's this huge man. The Bible gives dimensions here for him. Depending which archaeological person you go with those measurements, so you have an idea. Goliath stood anywhere from 6'9" to 9 feet tall, depending how you measure a cubit in the Bible. The Bible doesn't say a cubit is exactly this. But more or less, a cubit in the Bible is about 18 inches. 15 to 18 inches, give or take, long. So there was this man who stood anywhere at a minimum 6'9" to about 9 feet tall. Nowadays, you'd be considered a tall guy. Now imagine back then when the average height for an Israelite man was 5 feet tall. So he was a big man. You know, the Bible gives the dimensions of of his armor. He walked around with about 150 pounds of armor on him. His spear, the tip of his spear, weighed about 18 pounds. So the Bible gives this description of Goliath, just so we understand that he was no joke. He was a man's man. You know, if there was somebody you wanted on your team when you're picking teams to play a rough sport, you want a Goliath on your team. You did not want to go against that guy. And the Bible says that he was not just a warrior. It says he was a champion. Meaning what? He fought other Philistines to acquire that title. So he wasn't just somebody that served the army. He wasn't just somebody who was versed in warfare. He was the cream of the top. He was the top of the cream. He was the cream of the cream. He was it. And the Bible says that he came out and he challenged the armies of Israel. That's something that ancient warfare they did, ancient armies in warfare they did. When there was a deadlock, to avoid massive casualties on both sides, they would pick a warrior from one side and a warrior from the other side and do the meet in battle. And whoever won, the battle was won for their army, instead of having both armies come and have massive casualties. So that's what the Philistine does. He comes out, verse 4. It says, then a champion came out from the armies of the Philistines named Goliath from Gath, whose height was 6 cubits and a span. He had a bronze helmet on his head, and he was clothed with scale armor, which weighed 5,000 shekels of bronze. He also had a bronze greaves on his legs and a bronze javelin slung between his shoulders. The shaft of his spear was like a weaver's beam, and the head of his spear weighed 600 shekels of iron. His shield carrier also walked before him. Verse 8. He stood and shouted to the ranks of Israel and said to them, why do you come out to draw up in battle array? Am I not a Philistine, the Philistine, and you servants of Saul? Choose a man for yourselves and let him come down to me. If he's able to fight with me and kill me, then we'll become your servants. But if I prevail against him and kill him, then you shall become our servants and serve us. Again the Philistine said, I defy the ranks of Israel this day. Give me a man that we might fight together. When Saul and Israel heard these words of the Philistine, they were dismayed and greatly afraid. So here's this specimen of a man. He comes out. The Bible says that he did it twice a day, morning and evening. He comes out. He stands in the valley where he's open to be shot with arrows. And he says, I defy the armies of Israel. Meaning what? I think you guys are useless. I don't think you're up to par. You see, he's trying to intimidate them. And that's what the devil will do to me and you. He will come and try to intimidate us. He said, I defy the armies of Israel. Give me a man that will come and fight with me. And the Bible says that he did that. And that Saul and the whole armies of Israel were afraid and dismayed. Now, Saul was no little guy either. He was a big man as well. Saul, the king of Israel. The Bible says that he was head and shoulders above everybody else. So the tallest man in Israel came up to his shoulder. So he was a big man too. He may not have been as big as Goliath, but he was a big man. And the Bible says that Goliath defied him. He said, I am a Philistine. As a matter of fact, it says, I am the Philistine. Aren't you guys servants of Saul? Isn't he your king? Give me a man that will fight with me. And if you guys win, we'll be your servants. But when I win, you will be my servants. You see, that's the devil. The devil's always trying to make a deal with us. Even though he's defying us, he's trying to make a deal. Pay attention to what Goliath said. Give me a man to fight with me. You see, every time you face the enemy, if you face him as a man, you will lose. I repeat that again. Every time you face the enemy, if you face him as a man, you will lose. Hence Goliath said, give me a man. He didn't say, give me a warrior, give me one of your princes. He said, give me a man. Every bully knows how to bully people. They know where to pick. You see, all the devil has is intimidation. And he will try to punk us if we let him. And he comes and he has this great stature of a man. He's standing there, imposing figure. There's this arm bearer in front of him, and he's insulting this whole army on the other side of the hill. And the Bible says that Saul and the whole army of Israel were afraid and dismayed because of him. You see, there's a lot of people that talk the talk, that say, no, I'm for God. But when things get rough, they get scared. You know why? Because you're just a man. You're facing the enemy as a man. When you face the enemy as a man, you will become scared and you will become dismayed. And the enemy knows that. And he will use that to intimidate you even more and more and more. The Bible says that Goliath did this for 40 days. Morning and evening. See, when we have a problem, sticking our hand in the sand and wishing the problem away doesn't work. Because the devil will keep nagging at us, he'll keep enticing us every day, morning and evening. Meaning what? He will give us no rest. If he feels that you're intimidated, he's just going to up the ante more and more and more. And the more you try to face him as a man, the more you're going to become afraid. The more you face your struggles, the more you tackle the problems of life head on as a man, the more fearful we become, the more dismayed we get, and the more the devil will punk us. Why? Because that's his tactic. He only has intimidation. And the Bible says that he did that for 40 days. You know? And if we don't know who we are in God, if we don't know whom God has called us to be, when we face struggles, when we face difficulties, we will be scared. It's just natural. It's natural, a human reaction to fear things greater than them. It's just nature, period. So if we don't know who we are, any little intimidation will scare us, like it did to Saul and the king and the rest of the army. But the interesting thing is that even though they were scared, they still didn't give in. They still gathered the army every day. They went through their drills. You know, the Philistines on one side, the Israelites on the other. Unfortunately, there's a lot of believers like that, man. They don't face the devil, but they talk a tough talk. How do I know that? Because the Bible says so. Because in this meantime, this 40 days is happening. David's father was an old man already, the Bible says. And he comes to David, and he says, look, your 3 older brothers, they're in the battlefield with Saul. They're following Saul. Take this food for them, and also take this other food for their captain, and find out how they're doing. And bring me back news of them. And David said, okay. Here he was. He was anointed the next king of Israel. He's not in any prominent position as his brothers were following the current king, fighting the battles, protecting the kingdom, because that's the job of a king. No. He was entrusted with his father's sheep. And we're going to see later on, he took care of that very well. So like I said, no matter the calling of God has in your life, in my life, which is nothing little, it's for greatness, God calls us for greatness. But we need to treat every position, every time we're here on this earth, every position we have, no matter how little it is, as the greatest thing ever given to us. If God calls you to be the CEO of a corporation and you're there working just as a receptionist, be the greatest receptionist you can be. Do it as if the corporation belonged to you. That's what David did. Even though he was an anointed king, he was out there in the middle of the field taking care of sheep. And when his father said, bring these to your brothers and bring word from them for me, he went. And when he arrived there, it says here, verse 20, so David arose early in the morning and left the flock with a keeper and took the supplies and went as Jesse had commanded him. Just a little side note. When God starts bringing promotion, you're in the process of being promoted by God, of Him bringing you to the calling that He has for you. Don't just abandon what you were doing before. The Bible says that David didn't just, oh, I'm called to go to the battlefield, that's what kings do, great. He just left the sheep behind and took off. No. He made sure that the job that he was doing, that he was in charge of, was going to get done well while he was gone. You see, God is promoting you to something else. Make sure that the place where you are now is filled with somebody just as capable as you, if not better. And that's what David did. Everything's set, everything's good. He got on his donkey and he took off. And when he arrived there at the battlefield, it says, and he came to the circle of the camp while the army was going out in battle array, shouting the war cry. Now, he's arriving into the Israeli army, and they're settling out. It's probably early in the morning. They're mustering up. They're getting their battle lines. And the Bible says that they're doing their shout. They're shouting war cries, getting pumped. They're getting ready to fight. And they've been doing this for the last 40 days and nothing is happening. There's a lot of people, unfortunately, who claim to be God's representatives, to know what they're doing, and they misrepresent God, they misrepresent His word. You see, they were huddling out, they were gathering together, and they were doing the battle cry. You know, you're in your midst with your friends. You feel pumped up. You feel invincible. But guess what? The moment you see Goliath, way down there in the valley, he's not even in your face. He's just way down there in the valley, taunting you, they become afraid. And that's what's been happening for the last 40 days. They do the battle cry. They get all ready for war. They line up. They get on top of the hill. And then there's Goliath, way down there in the valley. And he taunts them, they're afraid. You see, what matters is not how much you jump in here. It's not how much you shout here. It's not how crazy you go in here for Jesus. What matters is when you face the devil out there, how do you react? When you hear his taunting, when you hear his intimidation, how do you react? And the Bible says that as David arose, as he arose in the morning, he got there just in time to see the scene that had been played out for the last 40 days. And he gets there, and he sees this Philistine down in the valley, getting up, shouting all these obscenities at the armies of Israel. And he looks around and nobody's doing anything. And then he starts talking. He's like, what's this going on here? And some of the soldiers tell him, hey, no, this has been happening for the last 40 days. Now, the word is that whoever goes out and fights this Philistine and kills him, the king will make that person very rich, will give him his daughter in marriage, and the best thing of it all, would exempt that person's house, their father's house, from paying taxes or having any duty to the government forever. And as David is hearing this, there's the Philistine down there in the valley shouting his threats. Now, this is the difference between David and Saul. Between those who face the enemy the right way and those who succumb to the intimidation of the enemy. Verse 24. When all the men of Israel saw the man, the Philistine, they fled from him and were greatly afraid. The men of Israel said, have you seen this man who is coming up? Surely he's coming up to defy Israel. And it will be that the king will enrich the man who kills him with great riches, and will give him his daughter and make his father's house free house in Israel. Verse 26. Then David spoke to the men who were standing by him, saying, what will be done for the man who kills the Philistine and takes away the reproach from Israel? He just heard them talking. He just heard what the Philistine said. He just heard them talking what the promise was. But he asked them a question. He doesn't ask, what did he really say? No, he says, what will be done for the man who takes this reproach from Israel? You see, the right mentality to face the devil, to face our problems, is not how big the problem is or what the problem is, but it's what is the spoil or the outcome that I'll gain by taking this head on and destroying it. What is the reward in this? See, David didn't care what the threat was. He was interested in hearing what the reward was. In other words, he was focusing on the promises versus the threats. No matter how intelligent you are, you're just like everybody else. You have limited brain space for storage. So be very careful what you store in there. If what you store are the words of the threat, and that's what you meditate on, or if what you store in there is the words of the promise that you meditate on. You see, because when you hear a promise, it will inspire you, it will give you the strength to face the problem. David knew what the problem was. And he goes again and he asks him, hey, what will it be done again for the man who does this? And his brothers heard him and said, get out of here. You're not really interested in this. You're just bloodthirsty. You came here to see the battle and see people die. Why did they say that to him? Because David had already been anointed king. If Saul dies, he becomes king. So they're saying, you're here self-serving yourself, wanting to see Saul die. And David's like, forget about Saul. I've already received that promise. That's already mine. What is this other promise? And he asks again. And they tell him again what will be done. And David says, I'm game. I'm the man. He says, I'm the one. Who is this Philistine? So what they do? They take David and they bring him to the king, right? It says, when the words which David spoke were heard, they told them to Saul. Verse 31. And he sent for him. David said to Saul, let no man's heart fail on account of him. Your servant will go and fight with this Philistine. So when they brought David before Saul, you guys were saying, I'll go fight him. The first thing that David tells Saul is like this: look, you guys don't need to be afraid of him. If you can't do it, I'll do it. Don't be afraid. Don't be afraid because of him. I will go and fight him. You see, that's the attitude, the reaction of somebody who focuses on the promises of their lives versus somebody who focuses on the circumstances of the problems they're facing. You focus on the size of the problem, you focus on what the problem entails, you're going to become afraid of them. You focus on what the promise is and what the reward is for you to overcome that problem, you become bold. You tackle anything head on. But you see, unfortunately, even though he was in the midst of God's people, here he was believing the promises, willing to do what nobody else was willing to do. Not just willing, he was eager to go and face the Philistine. Here's the person who's supposed to motivate him even more. The leader of the country, the spiritual leader, Saul. What is he saying instead of telling David? David just said, don't be afraid because of him. I'll go and fight him. Instead of Saul saying, great, my son, may God be with you. Let me pray for you. And you go. No, that's not what Saul says. Saul says this. Then Saul said to David, verse 33, you are not able. Say with me. You are not able.
You are not able.
That's what people tell us. That's what the devil tells us. That's what circumstance tells us. And unfortunately, even those closest around us, sometimes they're the ones who tell us they're not able. And you see, he's not fighting the Philistine for his own glory. We're going to see that later on. He's fighting the Philistine for the glory of his nation. Therefore, for the glory of his king. And here's the one who is to benefit the most from David facing this Philistine. He tells him, you're not able. You will always find people more than willing to tell you you're not able. God gives you a dream. God gives you a promise. You go happily to share with somebody that dream. You go very happily to share with them that idea. And the first thing they do is shoot you down. They say you're not able. And they actually give you very plausible reasons. Reasons that make a lot of sense. Why was David not able to fight the Philistine according to Saul? Saul says it here. You're not able to go against the Philistine to fight with him, for you are but a youth, while he has been a warrior from his youth. Saul's saying, you can't face him because you're nothing but a young man. Probably in his late teens. And this is a full-grown man, quite big actually, who's been fighting, doing this since his childhood. You can't go and fight him. You see, the devil will not only try to intimidate you, he will put people in your way that say you're not capable of accomplishing it. The difference, and this is key, I want you to pay attention to this. The difference between those who overcome their problems and versus those who succumb to their problems is in the next verse. The difference between somebody being rejected and pulled aside as king versus somebody becoming a king and God promising a dynasty to him forever is in the next verse. Saul says to David, you can't do it. And he gives him a very plausible, scientifically based reason. Not just scientific, but logistically, everything sounds legit. And here, this is what David says to him. But David said to Saul, "Your servant was tending his father's sheep. When a lion or a bear came and took a lamb from the flock, I went out after him and attacked him and rescued it from his mouth. And when he rose up against me, I seized him by his beard and struck him and killed him." This is the difference. David was not willing to let any of the promises that God made him go. He was not willing to forfeit anything that he had. Nothing. Whatever's mine is mine. And not only that, he took care of things that were trusted to him. He says, "All due respect, King, you make a lot of sense. Your reason is scientifically correct. But let me tell you about something about me. I don't live by the laws of nature. I don't live by human reasoning. I'm not guided by those principles. I'm not subject to them. I'm subject to the promises of my God and what He has put in my hands." And David says, "When I was tending the sheep, a lion or a bear," those are not small predators, man. He could have said a coyote or a bobcat, a lot more doable. But no, he went after the two biggest predators in Palestine. He said when they would come and snatch a lamb from the flock. Little side note here from me. Just because you have something, God has given you possession of something, does not mean the devil will not try to snatch things away from you. And he will succeed. David said, not when they attempted to snatch the sheep from my flock, when they did it. You see, the predators, the demons, the devils, they will come and they'll snatch things that God has given to us. It's not a matter of them attempting to or trying to. They will do it and they will succeed once in a while. It's just the name of the game. See, David said, not if they come or when they came and they succeeded. They snatched the lambs from the flock. See, David would say, oh well, I did my best. I tried. There's more. God will give me more. You know, it's spring's coming up. We're going to have more little lambs. The flock's going to get big again. It's okay. One or two, nobody's going to miss them. You see, with David was the principle of the thing. David was like Moses. When Pharaoh told Moses, you and the people can go, but your possessions will stay here, Moses said, no, not even a single nail from us will be left behind. David's like, you're not taking anything from me. Why? Because you're going to set a precedent that I'm willing to let things be taken from you. So he said, when the lion or the bear came and snatched a lamb from the flock, what did he say? I would run after them and snatch it back. Warfare is not something pretty, man. It's ugly and dirty. You gotta get down into it. See, something the Holy Spirit is speaking to me is this. You want to see the prostitute saved. You want to see the crackhead saved. You want to see God doing miracles in the lives of those, the outcasts of society. Don't wait for them to come to you. They're not. They've been snatched. You got to go out there and snatch them back. You see, dreams have been taken from you. Don't sit here and pray and ask for them to be brought back. They won't. You You got to go out there and snatch them back. Things have been snatched from you, from your family. They're not coming back, but you're just sitting here and asking God to give them back to you. You got to go out there and snatch them back. Then it says, I would go after them and snatch the lamb back. And then guess what? They'll get mad. And then he says something. I would grab them by the beard. I'm no zoologist, but I've dealt with large breed dogs for the longest. I think it's not the smartest thing but for you to try to grab a predator by the mouth. You try to grab by the scruff of the neck or another point, you don't grab them by their strongest asset. David said, no, I grab them by the beard. And I'll strap them and kill them. You see, he wasn't just content in getting back his wounded lamb. He would make a point to warn all the other predators around that if they attacked his flock, it was at the peril of their own life. You see, you can't impede the devil from attacking you. You can't impede him from snatching things from you. But what you can do and you should do is this, what David did. You should run after what's taken from you. And you literally snatch it back. And you make an example of that situation. So others won't try to do the same. And that's what David is telling to the king. In a very respectful way, saying, King, thanks for your counsel, but no thanks. He says, and this Philistine will be just like one of us, will be no different. He says here, your servant has killed both the lion and the bear, and this uncircumcised Philistine will be like one of them, since he has taunted the armies of the living God. And David said, the Lord who delivered me from the paw of the lion and from the paw of the bear will deliver me from the hand of this Philistine. The secret of David, it was not just that he was not willing to let things go. Is that he remembered what God had done to him in the past. And because of what God had done for him in the past, he was assured of what God would do for him in the future. And as this Nigerian preacher, T.B. Joshua, said, very rightfully so, he says, the secret to overcoming problems is not allowing them to seek your joy. How? Everybody was afraid because of the problem. David, he said, he will be no bigger, no different than these things that have already happened to me in the past. You see, I would say the majority of us here are immigrants. Too few exceptions.
Nozzle's an immigrant too.
Rachel and Gio, and my kids. But the majority of us here are immigrants. And by his accent, it sounds like he came from a first world country, so he may not have had this issue. But all the rest of us, man, we came from third world countries. You know, you go drink water, you were lucky if you had clean water. You had to boil the water. Had no AC. Oh, nowadays, well, it has to be bottled water. Oh, I don't drink the sun, only Fiji, please. Oh, you gotta turn up the AC lower than 76 or else it's too hot. You used to live in the middle of nowhere, no AC, no clean water, mosquitoes biting everywhere. I remember when I went back to Brazil, and I stayed at my uncle's house. He's a millionaire, man. But still, even there, they had mosquitoes this big that if they bit you, you need a blood transfusion. And they're everywhere, and everybody's like, eh. And here we are, oh my goodness, Zika, still mosquitoes, like, ah. Why? Because we forget where God has done for us in the past. You see, you bring somebody over there from the country, uses to drink water from the well, dirty, eat whatever's put before them. Oh, cholera? And what was the E. coli? Chipotle? Give me that, man. That ain't nothing. Why? Because the E. coli at Chipotle is nothing compared to the stuff that their food goes through back home. They look at the E. coli and they're like, you're nothing but a baby. And that's the same with us. When we see problems ahead of us, in front of us, if we look back to our lives and we see what God has already brought us through, what He's delivered us from, and where we are today, we're going to look at that problem and say, you're nothing but a baby.
Amen.
You see, there was this huge man, this warrior, intimidating a whole nation. And David looks at him, and he remembered what God had done for him. He says, you're no different. You're no different. The same God who delivered me from the paw of the lion and the bear will deliver me from the hand of this Philistine. And trust me, I'll tell you this beyond a shadow of a doubt. Facing that warrior, it will be much easier than taking food away from a hungry predator. So David said, I took food from the mouth of a hungry predator. So facing this Philistine, it ain't no problem. That's the mindset you need to have. That's the mindset we need to have if we want to be overcomers. If we want to be people who change destiny. If we want to be people who receive all that God has for us. And not just having that mindset. You need to stick to what God has given you. I'll close very quickly. The Bible says that when He told Saul that, Saul said, okay then. You're crazy? Go for it. But before you go, here's my armor. Put my armor on you. Here's my sword. And the Bible says that David put it on and he couldn't move. And everybody uses that to say that David was a little boy. No, it's not that he was a little boy. It's like I told you, the Bible says that Saul was head and shoulders above everybody else in Israel. So putting Saul's armor on him was kind of like, you see, the same people who tell you the dream that you have, the calling that you have, the task you're about to face, you can't do it. When they see your determination, they'll be the first ones to try to change you to do it the natural way, the right way, the human way. Saul said, you're going to face a warrior? Dress up like a warrior. David said no. The Bible says that he went with his shepherd's pouch, where he could put stuff in, and his sling, and he went and he got 5 stones. You see, you don't just need to be confident in the call, in the promises of God in our lives, but we need to be confident and completely assured on the ability and the gifting that God has given us. I have all the ability that I need to accomplish what God has for me to accomplish. You have the ability you need. You have the ability you need. Well, Pastor, isn't there wisdom and counsel? Yes, there is. But you have to distinguish when people are trying to counsel you or they're trying to make you do things their way. You have to be assured of the calling of God in your life and the giftings, the ability that He has placed in you. You see, if David would have taken Saul's armor and gone to face Goliath, we wouldn't be talking about David today. But David said no. I'm sure the same God who delivered me from the paw of the lion, from the paw of the bear, He has given me the ability to accomplish what He wants me to accomplish. Verse 17:40 says, David, he took his stick in his hand and chose for himself 5 smooth stones from the brook and put them in the shepherd's bag which he had, even in his pouch, and his sling went his hand, and he approached the Philistine. David said, thank you, but no thank you. You can keep all your reasoning, you can keep all your resources. I'm going to do what God has called me to do, the ability that He has given me to. Now, the Bible says that He went and picked up 5 stones. The interesting thing is you remember that in the verse 4 says that Goliath was a champion of the Philistines? The champion is because the Philistines were known for giant warriors. There were 4 others. As a matter of fact, there was another one that was named Goliath as well, whom David's nephew killed later on. So they're very well known, all 5 of them. You see, it was the top one that was challenging Israel that day. But David was ready to take them all out. You see, when you know beyond the shadow of a doubt, and you trust the promises of God in your life, and the ability that He has given you already to accomplish the calling that He has in your life, there's nothing that will stand in your way. He was ready to take out all 5 of them that same day. So he went out, he picked 5 stones, put it in his pouch, his staff in his hand, his stick. And the Bible says what? He went to go meet the Philistine. Read it with me. At the end of verse 4, it says, and he approached the Philistine. Say it. Say it again.
And he approached the Philistine.
Say it again.
And he approached the Philistine.
Eyes here. Don't wait for the problem to come to you. You go to it. Don't wait until the enemy brings the fight to you. You bring the fight to him. I'm going to say it again. Don't wait until the enemy brings the fight to you. You bring the fight to him. The Bible says that David got all that God had given him, and he went towards the Philistine. Here's this man in the valley, taunting the armies of Israel, and there's this guy coming down the hill, running towards them. The next verse says that when the Philistine saw David, verse 41, then the Philistine came out and approached David with the shield bearer in front of him. When the Philistine looked and saw David, he disdained him, for he was but a youth and ruddy with a handsome appearance. The Philistine said to David, am I a dog that you come to me with sticks? And the Philistine cursed David by his gods. Here was this massive man. And if he wasn't impressive looking by himself, he also had a shield bearer, somebody that carried his shield ahead of him. And when he sees David, he can't believe his eyes, man. This young man running at him with a stick in his hand. You see, he went from challenging to now ridiculing. Pay attention to me. First, he challenged. Now, he was ridiculed. the devil will challenge you. And if we don't answer, he will punk us. And when you answer and you fight him back, he will try to ridicule you. To what? To make you engage him on his terms. Goliath was a champion infantry fighter, hand-to-hand combat. And David knew hand-to-hand. He said he grabbed the beard of the lion and the bear and struck them. So he was no stranger to hand-to-hand combat. But you know what? He followed the lead of God in his life. He said it's not going to be hand-to-hand this time. Take the 5 stones. Today, I'm going to honor you through another one of the gifts I've given you. You have to be open to the Spirit. So when the Philistine saw David coming at him with a stick in his hand, he ridiculed him. He says, am I a dog? Why? Because you beat dogs with a stick. At least that's what they do in the Middle East. You don't go to war with a stick. You bring a sword. See, Goliath was ridiculing David for following through the guidance of God in the situation. After the devil intimidates us, when he sees that we answer the call, he will try to ridicule us, to try to get us not to follow God's instructions in our lives, but to deal with that situation. And then he cursed David by his gossip. You see, just like any other bully, when they're faced head on, you see that they're actually the ones with fear. Why was he cursing David in the name of his gods? So that somehow his gods would give him the ability to destroy David. If he was so sure and confident in his own ability, he would not have needed to curse David in the name of his gods. You see, what the devil does, he curses us in the name of our gods. Love of money, pride, lust. That's what he will throw at you after he ridicules you and you continue going with what you have. The instructions that you have from God. You're not worthy. You see, but like David, you need to get tunnel vision and proceed forth with what God has told you to do. Verse 45. Then David said to the Philistine, you come to me with a sword, a spear, and a javelin. 3 weapons. 3 things that the Philistine did to the Israelites of today. He tried to intimidate, he tried to ridicule, and then he cursed. Those are the 3 weapons of the devil. In that exact order. Intimidation, ridicule, and then cursing. David says, you come with those 3 weapons and with a sword, a spear, and a javelin. But I come to you in the name of the Lord of hosts, the God of the armies of Israel, whom you have known. All you need is one weapon. One weapon. David said, you come with me with all these 3 weapons. I come at you with one weapon. The name of my God. whom you have taunted. See, he didn't take it personal. He didn't say you didn't taunt me. You taunted my God. Why? Because David knew who he was. He was beloved of God. So by the Philistine taunting him, he was by default taunting God. And David himself knew not to touch the anointed of the Lord. You see, so if you know who you are in God, if you know the identity that God has called you to be a son and a daughter, when the enemy taunts you, he's not taunting you. He's taunting your Father. And when he taunts your Father, remember as little kids? You get up, I'm going to get my daddy to beat you and your daddy. That's exactly what David was saying. Because you've taunted me, you've taunted my Father. And it's his name that I come against you. And the Bible says the Philistine drew towards David, but the Bible says that David ran towards him with the sling in his hand and the little stones in his pocket. Now the place where David was, in the valley of Elah, it's well known for the density of the rocks there. Rocks there are a lot denser than anywhere else in the Holy Land. They don't know why. The rocks there are extremely dense. And we think David with a slingshot, like, no. The slingshot that the Bible is speaking of was a piece of leather with two leather strings attached to it, the other end. You would put something in there, a rock, a piece of lead, something, and you would swing it about 6 revolutions per second. And then they would release one of the strings, the pouch would open, and that projectile would fly. And they were very accurate with that. See? So what David is swinging, the little rock, they've done the ballistics on it, a little rock about this big, on the hands of a craftsman with a sling and a slot, as a sling in his hand, it has the same impact as a caliber 45. So here's Goliath running at David. He did not even know what hit him. Why? Because he tried to make David face him as a man in his own abilities. He played to his emotion. Am I a dog? But David was not just sure of the promises of God, of the abilities that God had given him, but he was focused on the plan that God had given him. You see? One hit, two sounds. The stone hitting Goliath, and Goliath hitting him. Let's stand. You see, but David wasn't just content in hitting Goliath with the rock and seeing the Philistine champion go down. The Bible says that he ran to Goliath, pulled up Goliath's own sword, and severed his head. If the rock did not kill Goliath, the sword definitely did. Another lesson from David. When God gives you victory, don't be merciful. Completely annihilate your enemy. Make an example of him. Like he did to the lion and to the bear. When the devil raises himself against you in a situation, don't just be happy to get out of that situation with your life. Don't just be happy to have the problem gone away. No. Make an example out of that situation so the devil will not raise himself up against you. And not only that, the Bible says that David took Goliath's head and he entered Jerusalem with it. Jerusalem is known as the city of David, not because he founded the city. Later on in his kingdom, in his rule, he conquered Jerusalem from the Jebusites. But years before he even conquered there, he walked in there with Goliath's hand, bloody head in his hand, showing everybody, I'm a conquering king. He was instilling fear in them that later on he'd be able to conquer them. Because the Jebusites had an allegiance with the Philistines. You see? So don't just be happy to get out of the situation, to be able to skate by. No. Make an example out of it. So that the enemy will not rise up against you anymore, and that you show his head to the other ones. Here, this is your fate. If you dare rise up against me. So tonight, I don't know what your situation is. Quite honestly, whether I care or not don't matter because I can't do nothing about it. But God can. And just like David, whatever it is that's taunting you, whatever is bringing shame, whatever intimidation the devil's been putting on you, be like David. Say, the same God who delivered me from the paw of the lion and the bear, he'll deliver me